I've done a lot of speaking internationally, but most of my international speaking is with mixed audiences. So obviously you get different cultural references, you get different sense of humor. It's very unusual for me to speak to an international audience where everybody is from the same country. That's quite unusual.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are Lithuanians different?
You smoke a lot.
That's true.
Different. I'm really impressed by how good the English is here. I mean, there's a really high level of, a really high standard of English. So that's different to a lot of countries, definitely. So quite often people say everybody has business English, but they don't. And here, the level is very, very high. Yeah. So that's been the thing I've noticed most. Yeah.
Okay. And you've written a book for the presentation. I mean,
yes, it's called The Busy Person's Guide to Great Presenting, and I wrote that to set my ideas. Quite often when you're a speaker, people come up afterwards and they say, I want to be a speaker, or I want to be a better presenter. And so I realized over the years I was talking a lot about it, so I wanted to write my ideas down and put them in a book, and it's been very successful and very popular.
Yeah, right, true. Some people say that actually the art of presenting cannot be learned. You need to born with some I don't know, qualities, to learn it. How much is true from your perspective?
Well, I think there's some truth in anything in life.
Right.
Obviously, people are born, if you want to play the piano or you want to do athletics, obviously there is some genetic advantage to some people. But everyone can learn to be better, definitely. So some people will never enjoy what I enjoy, which is speaking on big stages to big audiences. But everyone can learn to be better at it, and many people can learn to be good. And the great secret of presenting in business is most people are really bad at it. Because they're really busy, they don't have time to put ideas together, and so even if you're okay, you look really good because everyone else is quite bad. That's a big secret.
And how much this sales pitch these days is what's the importance of it? How much it's relevant? Because we are talking a lot about listening, asking questions, getting feedback, and now the sales pitch these days. Where's its place? It's
a great question, actually. So the relative value of the sales pitch will obviously change according to the industry. And I think there's quite a big difference between products and services. So when you're selling a product, quite often you have the advantage of the product itself. So if I'm selling a chair, I can show you the chair, I can show you photos of the chair, you can try the chair. So sometimes perhaps the sales pitch, it's important, but it's not so important in those situations. In services particularly, anything where you can't physically touch what you're buying, then the sales pitch I think becomes really important, because largely in services what you're doing is you're painting pictures in people's minds. Words are almost all you have. You're selling an outcome or a process or a result, and that doesn't exist yet. So there the sales pitch is essential, is really, really important.
And many salespeople, as long as I know, they don't like it. Giving the pitch, especially when it's so to speak unexpected. Me myself, I found myself in the situation when I come to the customer and the board of directors is sitting. Suddenly, I didn't expect it, and I say, "Now, give us a sales pitch."
Yes. I think a lot of people find it very intimidating, and one of the reasons is, I think a lot of us, we think about pitching in the wrong way. So there's a very old phrase in sales, which is people love to buy, but they hate to be sold to. Right. And so when you're pitching in your mind, if you're selling something to someone, it can be uncomfortable for everybody. It can be uncomfortable for you. It can be uncomfortable for the people you're presenting to. So one great way, I think, to change that is to focus on what I mentioned in my speech today, which is value, which is what is the value that I'm creating between me and my client, and how can we then divide that value? So that can help to animate you and give you some real focus in your pitching. And then the other two things I think that can make people better very quickly and help people to get over the awkwardness is, first of all, do more preparation and more rehearsal. Too many people, they get in a taxi to the client, they're not prepared, and they think they're prepared, and afterwards they tell themselves they were okay, but they weren't. I mean, last night, I was doing this speech today here at the conference for 20 minutes, 20 minutes is very difficult to speak because it's not very much time. So yesterday I rehearsed, well, I spent several weeks putting it together, but yesterday particularly I really rehearsed. And I probably rehearsed that speech 9 times, I think, yesterday, right? And so I spent nearly 200 minutes rehearsing a 20-minute speech. And then it becomes quite good. But it wouldn't be good if I just walked in the room and thought, what am I going to say?
It's very interesting because it's even you when it's a part of your profession to speak publicly, right? And you've written a book. Still, you are rehearsing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's the same. You know, if you were an Olympic athlete, if you won a gold medal, you don't stop training, right? If you sorry, I'm not saying I'm an Olympic gold medalist, but if you're a pianist, you practice every day because you want to get better. And also, when you do something a lot, you notice the subtle details more. Yeah. So there are things I want to get really right. But in terms of sales, I think the most important thing is that real focus on the client and the value that you're bringing, not being focused on yourself and your own nerves and your own presentation.
Yeah. And also, some people are focused on their own, like who we are, about us, who we are, how important we are, in the market for 200 years or something. Yeah.
Well, so another example I often give to clients is it's great to think of a sales pitch. Think of it like a date. You know, and if you were going on a date with someone and you said, let me tell you about myself. By the way, I'm brilliant at dating. I've done 100 dates. I've been dating since 1980. You know, the date would be a disaster, right? It would be a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
On a date, you have to say, tell me about yourself. What do we have in common? That's how to think of sales pitching, I think.
Yeah, and speaking about the dates, as long as I know, usually people are a bit shaky going into the date. As salespeople are a bit shaky sometimes coming and presenting in front of the customer. Would you have any advice, except of preparing, rehearsing, for somebody who does not feel confident, getting into it?
Yeah, so there are lots of things people can do to increase their confidence. One of the things I'd always recommend is what I call a 1-minute warm-up. So that is, let's say you're going to a client building, as you're walking to the building, you just do a few things physically to get yourself ready. Because when you meet people professionally, it's not the same as talking to a friend at a bar. You need a different level of energy, a different level of preparation. So even when you're walking into a room and there are 3 people there from the client, you need to be a little bit more alive and more confident. So I do a few things. I walk around a bit, I sort of shake my hands out, I try and make sure I'm physically relaxed. Then I'll do some things to make sure my voice is warm, because when I meet a client, I don't want to say, good morning, how are you? Right, I want to be confident in myself. And then the other thing I'll always do is really know what is the real goal of this meeting? If I'm meeting you for 30 minutes, what can I achieve in 30 minutes? Not the whole client relationship, but that 30 minutes, what can I actually achieve? And focus on that, and then perhaps my 3 main points that I want to get across in that 30 minutes. So that's really clear in my mind when I go in the room, and that helps with confidence a lot.
And what do you think about the elevator pitch?
Elevator pitch, so the idea that when somebody says, what do you do, or tell us about yourself, I think I call that a mini moment of influence. So I think what a lot of people have to understand is when somebody asks you for your elevator pitch, tell me quickly, they're not really saying, give me information. Right. What they're saying is, tell me where to place you in my world. Are you worth my time? Is this worth listening to more? So a good elevator pitch, a lot of people make the mistake. They try and say a lot in a short time, but a good elevator pitch should leave out a lot of information and should perhaps just be one statement of value. So what I said today about, I'll make your wedding better than your sister's was, that's an elevator pitch, because then people will say, oh, how do you do that? Tell me more about that. And now we're into a conversation.
Also, this presenting pitch, which requires, being constantly focused and motivated, and sometimes people lose this energy and motivation, and they just don't want to do that. They want to skip it. Let's do it another day. Give to somebody else. Do you have anything an advice how to stay this motivated and?
It's one of the biggest, deepest problems in sales, really, because in many industries, so much of sales is being rejected. So much of sales is people saying, no, I don't want it, or can you do it cheaper, or can you do it quicker? So a lot of the time we're getting rejection. So part of motivation is learning, first of all, how to deal with that rejection and know that you're going to get it.
Yeah.
And then secondly, embracing it. And so for example, when I first started in sales was before even the internet. I was on the phone phoning people. And in my mind, I just had to say, I'm going to make 100 phone calls today. Only 2 of these people are going to say yes. So it's one of those things a lot of salespeople have to do. You have to say, all right, I'm going to get 98 no's. Let's go. Let's get them. Yeah. Oh, the first person said no. That's great. There's only 97 rejections left today. Yeah. So that's one way of finding it, is really embracing the rejection. Okay. And the second part, I think, is realizing that what you do, it's never going to be right for everybody. It's never, no service, no product, no idea. There's nothing that everybody on the planet will like. So every time someone says no to you, you're closer to the people who really need you, really need what you provide. And so that, for me, that's quite a big source of motivation. I'm getting closer to those people who really need it.
And how do you approach your customers? What is your favorite, so to speak, way of approaching people, finding new customers, probably? There
are several ways I have. So my book is a great salesperson for me. My book is a salesperson who's working 24 hours a day across Europe. So that's a great way of approaching customers. Okay. So any form of getting knowledge out of your heads into LinkedIn, white papers, YouTube videos, anytime you can do that, it's great because customers find you. Okay. They say, I read your book and I like it, or I saw your video and I like it. So that can be great. And trying to also, I think, really, particularly if you're in a service business, speaking, writing, and networking are 3 amazing ways of finding customers because you get trust so much more quickly. You reduce a lot of exposure to procurement departments and things. And lastly, if you're not in that kind of business, I think being visible in the marketplace, what are the problems your clients are trying to solve, and where are they going to solve those problems, and you have to show up there. Yeah, I think that's how.
And at least here in Lithuania, sometimes it's not easy to understand the problem that the customer tries to solve. And we're constantly meeting salespeople who are complaining that the customers are not buying the value, they're buying the price. They're buying the price, they're buying the price. And it's pretty tough. How to overcome this kind of attitude?
Walmart have just started using artificial intelligence to negotiate with their suppliers, right? They're training it how to negotiate. Okay. So this problem is going to become more difficult. But I think here again, so customers are very good at telling us what they want, but they're quite often bad at understanding what they really need. And so what a great salesperson can do is really dig down into what the customer really needs, what the answer really is. And from that you can build value, and sometimes that will get you over the problem with price. And sometimes it's really about understanding what's important at the time and what can be delivered. So for example, when I work in Dublin in Ireland sometimes, and when I arrive the day before my event, and the taxi driver collects me, and the taxi driver says, do you want to go the expensive route, which is quick, or the cheap route, which is long? And when I arrive, I always say the cheap route, because I'm not in a hurry. So their price matters to me. But when I finish my work and the taxi driver is taking me back to the airport and I have to be on time for my plane, the driver says, do you want to go the expensive quick route? I say, yes, of course, because that's not expensive anymore. So I think one of the things a lot of salespeople could be better at is really articulating value, because value can help to dissolve the problems of price. Not completely, but it can help.
One more question. To do this, actually, we need quite a high level of trust between us and customer. Sometimes customers don't trust us. They don't want to reveal their interests, needs, and so on. Any ideas?
There are lots of ideas. So salespeople these days need to be more prepared. They need to do much more preparation than in the past. And also because of the internet, what we've seen is a transfer of energy between suppliers and sellers. Yeah. So 20 years ago, if you wanted to buy a car, for example, you'd go to a showroom and the person selling the car had all the power, they had all the information. Yeah. Now customers, they turn up and they say, I've been on Google, I know everything about cars, I need a price. But actually what they're really saying is, I've got loads of information in my head, help me make sense of that information. And that's where you can build trust very, very quickly. As long as you've got to be honest and you've got to be long term, but by helping to simplify the amount of information that clients have. That can often be a very good way to do it. And the other way to do it is where it's possible is to, first of all, arrive with more information, so you've done the research, you know what they need, you know what their priorities are. Lastly, also start small and grow big. Don't try and sell your biggest service or your biggest product. So start small so you build some trust and grow from there.
The last question probably, about objections. What's your hardest objection, or the objection you like least from the customers? You hear least?
There are two, for my particular business, and most of what I do now is speaking, so all of my objections will be around speaking. So obviously price will feature, but actually more than price, it's treatment, it's how I'm treated.
Okay.
So for example, clients will say things like, we'll pay your fee, but you have to fly with Ryanair. And so I'll say, no, I'll reduce my fee because I'm not, I hope Ryanair aren't listening to it. But so sometimes some of the objections are around the feel, the quality of the whole event. And then the other objections will be around logistics. So sometimes they'll say things like, you have to speak in this way, or you have this amount of time. Okay. And sometimes those are quite deep conversations I have to have with clients to give them the best result for them.
And how you deal with them, with those objections?
You have to deal with them by starting from where they are and working backwards, right? So you have to understand where, so if somebody came to me and they asked me, can you speak for 6 minutes? So my immediate reaction is to say, no, you can't do anything good in 6 minutes, you can't do it. But I wouldn't say that. What I would say is, tell me what the thinking is. Why have you come up with 6 minutes? Where does that come from?
Great question, why?
Right? And so they then start to tell me about the event, and immediately I can start saying, well, actually, I understand what you need. A better way to get that would be to do this. Or for example, if you need 6 minutes, I could do a video, because you can do a good video in 6 minutes. You can't do a good line. So do you need, is that what you really need? Yeah, so we have that conversation. But it has to start with them and what they need. How did they come to this crazy decision?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, my pleasure.
My pleasure.